Hi there, welcome to Two Devs on the Sofa. My name's Charlie.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about skills and what you need to do to get your first job as a junior developer. So I suppose the first thing we could do would be announce something really exciting for us. So we've got a partnership with Skills West that we're just sort of finalising at the moment. What does that mean, Mike?
Yeah, so we've been working with them for a while now to see if we can develop a new workshop all about employability skills, particularly around the technical area, so not technical skills but employability skills within the technical industry. We've developed this new workshop, as Charlie says, in partnership with Skills West, which we're going to be delivering over the next couple of weeks to our current students, and it's going to be a part of the course from now on, really.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to kind of rolling that out.
Yeah,
some of the stuff, in terms of the actual course itself, some of the stuff slightly goes from more obvious stuff, like being on time to interviews, to the kind of more in-depth stuff that you would need to know going from any other industry to applying for your first job in a technical industry like this.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different years, isn't there?
There's a couple of different things around the tech industry that is kind of different to other industries that I think is important to remember. And I think it's a really great time for us to be doing it at the moment. We've got 4 weeks left, or 3 or 4 weeks depending on when this video comes out, left of the current cohort now. So the students are kind of coming to, getting near the end. They're starting to think about jobs. A couple of them started applying for jobs, and they're all sort of starting to add all their new skills to their CV. Now's the right time for us to kind of provide advice and start deliver a workshop to them around how we can absolutely maximise their chances of getting a job, really.
Cool. So I suppose the best place to start with that is in terms of the most obvious thing that people think about when you go to apply for a new job, and that's probably the CV.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So we've kind of touched on the fact that there's a lot of differences between CVs and technical CVs. What sort of stuff would you be looking for and looking out for?
So for me, I think, there's a few different points here, but one of the things that always gets to me, and particularly I've done a lot of recruitment and a lot of hiring, my time as a developer for lots of different companies, and one of the things that I see time and time again and just doesn't mean anything is these comma-separated lists of languages or technologies or things that people can do. There's just it doesn't mean anything. If you just list out HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, whatever languages it is that you write, it doesn't it doesn't mean anything.
I see. You mean the people that are like, I've got Node.js and I've got Perl and I've got this, but it's something like they've done the Hello World.
Well, it doesn't tell me how much of it you've done. So have you done Node.js where you've just installed it and go, oh look, that's Node, I can use it, or have you worked with it extensively? Have you got 5 years of experience using it? Have you built real projects using it? It doesn't tell me anything. If you're just giving me a comma-separated list of languages, you could have just downloaded it off the internet for all I know. I've worked for over 10 years as a dev, and I've probably used, I reckon my count's probably 50, 60 languages, but there's no way I put them all on my CV. I can't write .NET, I'm going to be honest with you. I've worked for places where they wrote .NET, and I've had to use it a little bit, but I'm not going to put it on my CV, because I can't do it anymore.
So what's the solution to that issue then? How would you go about listing your skills if you were to pick out things? Do you just look for the ones that you're comfortable in, or...?
Yeah, I think there's two solutions really. The first one is only listing things that you feel confident and comfortable about talking about, but not just when you're listing, don't provide that comma-separated list. Provide some context. So it's about saying, right, I actually wouldn't start with the languages. I'd start with what you did. So I built this project. A link to your GitHub, and I used these languages. I chose these languages for this reason. I enjoyed this bit, and I didn't enjoy this bit. That actually provides some context, because now I can go and I can look at your GitHub and I can see what you've written and I can see the languages that you've used, and not just a list of here's some languages that I found on the internet.
Okay. So it's understanding the stuff that you can actually do with the language rather than the stuff you say you can do with the language.
Yeah, just because you've listed Node.js or PHP, I don't know whether that means you've written one PHP function in your life, or whether you know how to use complete PHP frameworks and you can build entire REST APIs and stuff with PHP. There's such a vast difference. I'd much rather see the projects that you've built and then talk about the languages that you used and why you use those languages and what the benefits and disadvantages, maybe what you liked and what you didn't like about those languages, so that I can. It's absolutely fine saying, right, I've heard of this language or I've heard of that language. Maybe at the bottom in a hobbies and interests or a list other skills kind of thing. But that you really want to put the focus on, you know, your core skills, like
the experience you've got, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about the experience that you
it
actually
is.
have.
Absolutely, yeah. A comma separated list of languages just doesn't give me any information.
True. Okay, so that's a really big pitfall.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that people fall into when they write CVs for you?
I mean, this one I'm guilty of, actually. I do this one all the time. And for
Can I guess this one before you say it?
Go on, yeah. You
Is
probably
it something
do.
to do with spelling?
It is, yeah, without a doubt, yeah. My spelling is terrible, and for this reason I always get my friends or some co-workers or, you know, my mum sometimes to just check my CV and just check over my spelling and my grammar, because I'm terrible. And when you've written it yourself and you've read it 50 times over, you know what it should say, but it doesn't.
It, don't you?
Yeah, you do. It's a bit like code. You kind of go code blind with it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just miss out on those spellings, those apostrophes, those little things.
Yeah. If only life had an autocorrect, eh?
Well,
It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
But unfortunately with technical stuff,
Yeah.
like it can't autocorrect technical terms and technical words, and it definitely won't autocorrect like your grammar and stuff.
Sure.
So definitely getting it checked, making sure that your spelling is there, that attention to detail. I think, you know, that I would say that that's fairly important across, you know, any job that you're looking for to have. But within development, when you're coding, an attention to detail is so important.
What's the difference between a script running or not running?
Exactly.
If you spell a variable incorrectly, then it's...
Yeah, or just that missing semicolon at the end of the line means the whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
That level of attention to detail is required in your CV.
Because that demonstrates to the employer that you're able to scan documents and see it in your work as well, I suppose.
Exactly. So I think that's really important, and it just looks unprofessional.
Yeah. So I think for me as well, one of the things I always look for, particularly in the applications we've had to the academy, is a lot of passion.
Yeah.
And this doesn't necessarily, for us obviously we're not employing people with any coding experience, so sometimes passion can be shown in any other outlet of their life, but it's really nice to see that people are able to kind of get into something and have a good conversation about something. It demonstrates a social skill and a level of understanding that you have to be able to socially interact with other people on the team.
I completely agree. Yeah.
So it's been really nice. Like we've been very lucky with the people that we've had apply for the academy, and we're continuing to have lots of applications coming in. But just the standard of quality of people doesn't just come from the grades and the things that they've achieved. It comes from them talking about stuff they love doing.
Yeah.
That whether it be like
hobbies and interests, and then showing a passion for those hobbies and interests, and for the things that they want to learn.
Definitely.
And I think that there's kind of two sides to that coin. Like you want to show that you've got passions for technical stuff. So I'm really passionate about learning this, or I'm really passionate about this language. Like I love JavaScript or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then you also want to show that you're passionate about other things. Like don't just make it, oh, my whole life is about code and I've got nothing else, because that's not true. You know, everybody's got other things they're interested in, whether it's, you know, gaming, movies, Netflix, going for hikes, like whatever it is. Like everyone's got another part of their life, and showing that you've got, you know, something else beyond just a passion for coding, I think is really important.
I feel like you went through your passions there, ran out, and then said going for hikes. That's what you
Alright, you're true, yeah.
Watching films, Netflix, going for hikes.
It's true, yeah.
That's pretty much
absolutely.
That's cool. So one thing that we also notice sometimes is people, and you kind of touched on this with honesty, across the whole of your CV, it's really important to be honest, and not just with your CV, with the whole process itself. So when you go for an interview and you talk to someone, it's really important to be honest, I think, and that can boil down to anything as well. Like if you're going for a job at wherever it is, somewhere that basically you just want your first job in the industry, and it's not that important where you work, and they do something really boring, but you're like, I just want my first job, it's a foot on the ladder. Don't go in and tell them it's always been your dream to do regex 24/7 and do nothing but PHP and regex because that's what you love.
Yeah, if it's not true.
If it's not true, they'll see right through it. So just be honest and try and find the positives in any situation. So if you find the positives about the company that you want to work for, tell them it's your first step on the ladder, you really want to learn, you're there to learn. They'll be more excited about the aspect that you're there to get yourself on a trajectory of learning than you will about, it's always been my dream to do this or do that.
To work for this company that I'd not heard of 3 years ago.
I'd never heard of before in my life.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I think that brings me on quite well to sort of another aspect. So the whole being honest thing, one of the quite big pitfalls that I see sometimes, not only with CVs but sometimes with interview processes, is this idea of sort of anomalies, I guess. So a lot of people on their CV will list, like, I worked at this place between working, this year and this year, and then I moved to this place from this year to this year, and that kind of thing. And which is great. You want to see your employment history, but if you've got gaps in that history, if there's particularly sometimes there's significant gaps, like 1 or 2 year gaps. What were you doing in that 2 years? Like, if you don't
Netflix,
tell me,
movies and taking hikes, I think was mainly it.
I mean, if that's the case, then I'd rather know. If you took 2 years off work to go hiking and watch Netflix, then all I've got is respect for you, to be honest, because I can't afford to do that.
There's definitely a meet up there, the Netflix hikers. We can start that.
Definitely. Meetup.com. Yeah. But I want to know what you were doing, because if you don't tell me, then I could just think up anything. Like, were you in prison? Were you? Yeah. What were you doing? Were you off robbing banks for the year? Like, I don't know.
Big year.
Did you suddenly join the mob?
Because they still exist.
I don't know. They may be.
Maybe. Cool. So I suppose all of this comes under the umbrella of one of what the last point is, and it's important to be prepared. And that sounds really generic, and that sounds like it could be anything. And truly, it kind of can. If you prepare for any aspect of the interview process, then you've got stock answers, you've researched the company, you've made sure that you understand their clients, you know about things that you potentially have on the back burner to talk about, should the conversation run dry when you're there as well. You want to make sure that you're giving your best impression of yourself. Yeah. It all comes under the umbrella of being prepared. So, I mean, this comes down to the fact that you've got to think about the interview process as you interviewing them as well. It's not just a one-way street. You'll need to find out if it's the right company for you. If you get a job there and then you don't like it and you've moved within 3 months, then you haven't done yourself any sort of favour.
You've just got to move again, right?
Yeah, you've got to move
it's
again.
just a waste of everyone's time.
So part of being prepared could be having a few questions that you think would be really good to ask them.
Yeah.
A few maybe probing questions to find out about what you really think about this company and the way that they think about their staff as well.
Yeah.
So it's really useful to make sure that you're prepared on any aspect, whether it's with the CV, whether it's with the interview process, or even just thinking about which jobs to apply to in the first place.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I think that's really important. I think the whole two-way interview thing is so important. So many people go into interviews and just think, oh, it's them asking me questions and I'm just going to sit here and answer it and nothing else. But
I hope they like me.
Yeah, and like that bit is important, and sure, that is part of an interview. But it's so much of a two-way process. Like, if you don't understand something about the company, how can you go and work there if you don't yet know?
Yeah.
If you don't know their tech stack, like ask about their tech stack. If you probably ask about the way that their
the questions can be
teams are structured. There's really all sorts of things that you just cannot get off of the internet, or that you won't get from a job spec about the way that they run their company. Definitely. And the things that are going to actually really impact you when you work there that you should be asking about. And we get told all the time by our teachers at school that you should ask questions when you go to interviews, and that's true, but actually don't just ask questions because you've been told to ask questions. Ask questions because you actually want to know the answers, things that are actually going to impact you when you get a job there. They're the things that will, one, impress the employer, and two, help you decide whether you want to work there or not.
Well, you're right with that first point, is that it says a lot about you in terms of the questions you ask. If you're asking intelligent questions about their tech stack, you're letting them know that you're aware of the difference between tech stacks. There's a lot more that can be read into the questions that you have for them.
Absolutely.
So it's always a positive to ask well thought out, prepared, intelligent questions.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Alright, well, I think that probably brings us to the end of this episode. That's just a sort of really quick introduction to some of the stuff that we'll be covering in our workshop.
Yeah, a little sprinkling.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more, and we go a lot more in depth into sort of the CV writing, definitely.
So I know that we touched on the application process as we went through that today. So just as kind of a quick shout for anyone that is thinking about applying to the academy, the deadline's coming up. December, 9th of December. So if you're thinking, and ahhing about changing careers, or you're coming out of school and you want to make the next step into the developer career, then yeah, put in an application. Applications are accepted for February intake, or the following one we can put to third places as well. So, yeah,
absolutely. It's a very easy process. Just fill out the form online. Give us as much information as you can. There's no obligation if you apply and then come along and decide that it's not for you. That's absolutely fine. There's no contract. Just register your interest with your application, and we'll be in touch. And
cool.
Yeah. See how we can help.
Thanks very much, Mike.
All right. Well, yeah.
Cheers,
guys.
Thanks.